show. You want to talk about a show that set women back is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of, like, there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double X. Did you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it, because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said it's
on television.
You know, just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything. Yeah. You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could.
Watching viral clips of The View can feel like stepping into a henhouse mid-mutiny, loud, chaotic, and rabid with recycled outrage. Yet somehow the most fascinating part is that their audience often seems more aligned with the critics than the hosts themselves. Let's be honest. If you average it out, The View's panel ranks among the least insightful voices on TV. They say what people are thinking, but without the nuance, just the volume. Now, not all of them are clueless. Sunny, hostin', not dumb. She's ideologically rigid, sure, but not stupid. She believes what she says. But Whoopi? That's a different story. Some of her takes are so nonsensical, it's like watching someone pitch a joke without a punchline. Enter Joe Rogan and Coleman Hughes. Picture two plumbers arriving to fix a leak and accidentally flooding the whole house, with logic. No yelling, no finger pointing, just calm, calculated breakdowns that left the hosts blinking, stunned. It wasn't a debate, it was a dismantling, a quiet, intellectual demolition that exposed the cracks in The View's carefully scripted outrage. So, what caused the spiral? Whoopi Goldberg suggested on air that if Biden is immune from prosecution, he could jail all Republicans. Yes, she really said that. It was like a parody of political thought, only worse because it wasn't meant to be funny. While the hosts clutched their pearls over made-up threats, Rogan and Hughes responded from a distance. Cool, clear, and composed. No personal attacks. No mockery, just logic, served with surgical precision. This wasn't roasting. It was a reckoning. And The View wasn't ready.
It's so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested hen house.
and at the same time, it seemed like the most interesting part was their audience seemed to be on my side.
Yes.
To be, if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's
dumb.
deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked, and you went on stage with it and just couldn't.
Rogan, ever the conversationalist, stayed focused. Coleman walked in with receipts, data, reason, and poise that made emotional outbursts look like interpretive theater. Yes, Sunny is smart, but she came in with an agenda. The rest? Some aren't just uninformed, they're uninterested in learning. And that's the problem. What triggered this calm obliteration? Rogan and Hughes dared to question the sacred cows of woke orthodoxy. The View responded the only way they know how: panic, performative offense, and a complete inability to address facts. Coleman didn't go in looking for a fight. He didn't even know who Sunny Hostin was. But when she ambushed him, he stayed composed. That kind of calm shakes insecure egos. It exposes the game. The View isn't having discussions. They're doing performance art for applause, not understanding. Coleman showed up with data crisp enough to crack glass. Rogan, meanwhile, described The View as daytime drama meets improv class, just without the facts. When Hostin tried to paint Coleman as a pawn of the right, he calmly corrected her. No, he's not a Republican. No, he's not co-opted. He's an independent with a voting record and receipts. Her accusation wasn't debate. It was distraction. Rogan called out The View's biggest flaw, the inability to separate disagreement from disrespect. Coleman simply reminded us that reason isn't aggression, and emotion isn't truth. The View thrives on outrage, but Rogan and Hughes came with a different weapon, facts, and that made them dangerous, because nothing threatens a narrative more than someone who won't raise their voice. Then came the wildest accusation. Rogan believes in dragons. That's the level of rebuttal we're dealing with here. It wasn't a counter-argument. It was a bad SNL skit with worse writing. When the hosts couldn't debate, they played the victim. Suddenly, calm men speaking in full sentences were attacking women.
See what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said it's
on television.
You know, just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything.
Yeah.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
Well, honest with you, because I want to be. Believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right, and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you?
He's never voted for a Republican.
You've said that you're a conservative.
No, no. I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling. I don't think there's any evidence I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here. And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about.
No names were mentioned, but the implication was enough to trigger alarms. And still, Coleman calmly laid out uncomfortable truths. That today's brand of anti-racism often mirrors the very supremacy it claims to oppose. Race isn't identity. Character is. That shouldn't be controversial. This wasn't a takedown. It was an audit. The View, a show that claims to uplift women and minorities, couldn't handle two men who brought ideas instead of slogans. They didn't argue. They unraveled. Twitter lit up. Memes exploded. Rogan as Gandalf whispering statistics. Coleman as a Jedi with a bar graph. All while The View spun out like a toy top in a wind tunnel. The View has a pattern. Bring on a token conservative woman, shout her down, claim victory. They did it to Meghan McCain. They did it to, what was her name? The blonde from Survivor? Same formula, different target. But Rogan and Coleman flipped the script. They didn't gloat. They didn't attack. They just made their points and moved. And that's what really hurt. Because they didn't need the moment. The moment needed them. As The View flailed, Joe and Coleman held steady. It was like watching a TED Talk next to a soap opera. The audience didn't just see who won, they saw who had something worth listening to. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Soundbites versus substance, outrage versus observation, noise versus nuance. And as the smoke cleared, only one side looked like it came to have a real conversation. When you only get 8 minutes to speak on race in America, you don't waste it. Unless you're The View. Coleman wanted to discuss ideas. Sonny used it to throw labels. He didn't even realize she called him a charlatan until he watched it back. That's how calm he was. That's how inconsequential her insult was to the bigger point. Watching The View try to handle logic was like watching a forest fire argue with a snowstorm. One side flailed, the other just cooled the air. They didn't need applause. They didn't want airtime. They made their points, dropped the mic, and left. And that's what truly rattled The View. Two men spoke calmly, clearly, and won the moment without ever raising their voices. The View has become a parody of itself. It's outrage theater. And now, the audience is starting to realize, maybe they're not the smartest people in the room. There are brilliant women out there. But none of them are on The View. The real threat to that show isn't Joe Rogan. It's clarity. And now, with the curtain pulled back, The View is left with mugs, a table and an echo chamber that's finally stopped echoing.